Well, if 2020 proved anything, it's that wow, this economy is crazy, up and down, wackiness, and you cannot predict anything. And that's why a lot of YouTubers who I watched last year who said, you know what's going to happen? The stock market's going to collapse. And then, of course, on top of that, real estate's going to collapse. Really? Did that actually happen? No, it didn't. So that's why in all of this craziness, you have to build a recession-proof investing strategy that can weather any storm and any craziness and any speculation and any Yahoo on CNBC telling you why this one thing is going to happen or another thing's going to happen. Because if you study the fundamentals, then you won't have to worry about that. Today, I want to talk about creating an investment strategy that is protected from the volatile stock market and the ups and downs of the economy. Heck, I'm sitting here today watching Wall Street freak out about inflation. Yes, Wall Street today is freaking out about inflation because of a third round of stimulus. Worried that we're printing too much money. Well, now they're concerned about that. After $27 trillion has been printed and we spend $800 billion on a defense budget every year, we're now worried about money? We're now worried about the printing of the US dollar? Look, if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you know that I think the value of the US dollar is going to continue to go down. Look, as the government prints more money, and we can't get a handle on inflation, the inflation is going to rise. Therefore, our value of that dollar is going to continue to go down. So, do you want your money tied to the US dollar, or do you want an investing strategy that hedges against inflation and the craziness of this volatile stock market? Of course you do. So, while no investment is ever 100% recession-proof, there are a few things that you can put in place to make sure that your portfolio is as solid and recession-resistant as possible. I want you to lay the groundwork here now so that you don't have to panic when, not if, the market plummets again. It will. We go through these cycles all the time. We're looking at the stock market right now, and all of these companies, 20% of companies, have enormous amounts of debt. They're over-leveraged. So what happens when these big companies can't pay their debt anymore? They go out of business. Will the government step in and print money to save them? Maybe they're too big to fail, or maybe they have too much debt to fail. Why should you be tied to that craziness? I don't want to be. Because here's the thing about the market. It will plummet. It always does. There's always that one guy. Maybe he's your uncle. Maybe he's in the YouTube comment section that hangs out. You know the guy. But this one guy always says, yeah, but when stocks go down, that will affect real estate. Remember 2008? Love that guy. But it always turns out that that one guy doesn't own any real estate, nor does he know what he's talking about. But I digress. Excuse me. See, home data from 2020 shows that home prices are largely unaffected by stock market dips. Home prices have remained similar to where they were before the pandemic hit, and homes are sitting on the market for 2 weeks before they're being sold. They're moving so fast. And interest rates are at historic lows. What's important to remember about real estate is that there is no such thing as one universal real estate market. When people ask me all the time, do you think there's a bubble in the housing market? I say, where? San Francisco? New York City? Where? There is no one real estate bubble. It's market specific. So this idea of one large real estate market or one large real estate bubble, it's a myth. It sounds good on CNBC headlines and when you pick up the USA Today, but it's not a real thing. The real estate market is not like the stock market in this way. They're totally different. They're different markets that are largely unaffected by one another. Think about it. During 2008, there were areas of this country that were fine. But there are areas like San Francisco, California. There were areas like Fresno. There were areas like Truckee, California, that had all kinds of problems. Vegas, Phoenix. So San Francisco, for instance, right now, is a wildly overinflated market in one of the least landlord-friendly states. There are homeless people literally sleeping in front of the Facebook headquarters in California. That's California. So what happens in that market has absolutely no bearing on what happens in a place that, like I invest, like in Texas. Sustainable investing is all about location. So if you spring for overpriced, overinflated markets, you're going to get hurt. Don't do that. But steady, smart investments is the right thing to do if you are in the right markets that are largely recession resistant. Housing prices and vacancy rates are driven by employment, supply, crime rates, etc. So if you want to know the criteria I look for in a market, I want you to watch this video. It's the 10 things you must do before investing in real estate, okay? Linked up here, you've got to watch that. Now, if you've got a strong rental market, there's not much to worry about. Now, I'm sure the value of your home property might dip a little bit, but again, I'm never worried about it. I remember speaking over lunch one time with Robert Kiyosaki about this question. I asked him sort of jokingly, because I already knew the answer to this. But I said, Robert, do you know the value of any of your homes? He said, no, I don't know. I don't have any idea. I don't care because they're cash flow. They're cash flow machines. So in a recession, or you might have property might go down a little bit in value. Okay. But you still have a rental income. There's a tenant still living in the property. You still have the tax benefits and you have a tangible real asset, unlike the stock market, which is paper. It's fantasy. Because if you have stock in Nike and you own paper in Nike, guess who's going to get their money before you will? That's right. The board. Okay? Not you, this paper asset holder of Nike. I have a tangible asset, a rental real estate. Unlike the stock market where you can literally lose everything in the blink of an eye. I mean, I see people doing this all the time, investing in penny stocks or other things. They put $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 in because they watched some YouTube video or something. Because some little rich millennial got lucky. And they lose everything. They don't have a tangible asset. Doesn't happen with real estate investing if you know how to do it properly. Another thing I want to touch on is that real estate values are influenced by mortgage rates. And right now, mortgage rates are at an all-time low and no end in sight. The Federal Reserve last week, speaking on this issue, aims to keep the liquidity and interest rates like this for the next maybe till 2024. The bottom line is that no matter how bad the economy gets, people will always need a place to live in. And if you're in the right markets, you'll always have tenants and you'll always have monthly cash flow. So if you are in the right places where tenants have an incredible demand to live in those properties, they need to live in those good school districts, they're in landlord-friendly states where there's jobs, multiplicity of jobs, all of those things contribute to a great rental market. And it's also important to think about the pandemic effect. Look, we've had markets that heretofore we haven't thought of as being, pandemic resistant or having issues because of tourism. Think about Orlando or Tampa or Vegas or other spots where, wow, now when a whole town shuts down and people aren't going to Disney or going to the casinos, wow, that really affects the entire market. So we need to make sure that we're not investing in those areas. Or if you are, being very, very smart with the type of investing you're doing if it comes to Vegas. But if you want to learn more on this process, and I want you to watch my full in-depth video, okay, on creating your way to wealth with common sense, sustainable real estate investing. Watch that video right now.